everyone to Justine Diana's shop. Just before we get into this and just before we even say hi to Vic, if you like what you see, you like what you hear, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell, because not only do we align ourselves with what we believe to be the best products available, but we also do giveaways sometimes with our brands, so you don't want to miss those. So hit the bell and subscribe to our love letter. There's a link down below. But this is a very, very special drop. This video is, for me, a long time coming, because after I left TVSN, I think I spoke to you a couple of months later, Vic,
yep.
About a product that you make called L.I.F.E, the antidote to modern food. And this is 14 Australian wild foods, 12 other superfoods in a blend. And the last 6 months, basically, Vic and I have been talking about, and Bob, talking about launching L.I.F E.
Yep.
This is a big moment for me.
Drum roll.
It is a drum roll, because this is not just any product. That you really do, there's decades of study, research, history
3.5
of yours that have gone into this, but then how many years?
Yeah, about 65,000.
That have gone
literally,
into it.
I mean, this is, if you can imagine 65,000 years of clinical studies.
Yeah.
This is it. It's a distillation of all the knowledge that I've been able to garner from many, many, many trips around Australia with living and working with Aboriginal people, mainly the women, because they're the the real repository of this knowledge of plant foods and medicines and so forth, and they're hunters as well. They're great hunters and fisher women. So it's great to have had that experience over the last 30 years as well.
Okay, so Vic, we know that so much has gone into it, but before we even go into what has gone into it, who are we talking to now for our tribe out there that are watching? Who should be going, okay, is this for me?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, now the problem is, why do I say that? Why can I say it sort of unreservedly?
Yeah.
Let's not forget that our food supply is diminishing in its variety. Okay, you go to the supermarket, you go to the greengrocer, you might shop organically only, you might get farmers market, stuff straight from the market and so on. What are we buying? I love to remind people, or let them know, in fact, that so many of our food has been genetically engineered so that we're not even looking at multiple foods. We're looking at just different parts of plants, of the same plant. So there's a plant called Brassica oleracea, okay, which we know is either broccoli, broccolini, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, Chinese broccoli, bok choy, kale, cauliflower, cabbage. There's actually now 12 different cultivars. Now let's not forget those cultivars are also obtained by food scientists, agricultural chemists in a way, getting the seeds of the original Brassica oleracea plant and then gamma irradiating them, treating them with sort of nasty chemicals to see what mutations they can cause in the seed that then still allows the seed to germinate and see what comes out, and then they cross this back and forth, and so they're now crossing cauliflower and kale, and they're also doing another cross, I think, between broccoli and kale. So we're getting some weird things coming out of America. But nutritionally, how far can these things vary? They don't. They don't. Literally, there's almost no difference between kale and Brussels sprouts.
Right.
So that's what we're eating. And so you add up the number of foods that we eat in a year, and you think, oh well, there's 10 foods. Oh no, that's one. And then again, there's a whole raft of chilies, habanero and jalapenos and so forth, and capsicums. Okay, we've got red, green and yellow capsicum. They're all the same species, all right? It's all Capsicum annum. So we've got a problem again. We're narrowing our food base. And at the same time, we're breeding up these huge, watery, sweet, often just juicy product that, again, you take wild blueberries and compare them to good, to store-bought blueberries, and the best you can find out there now is unfortunately grown almost like hydroponics in the ground. And wild blueberries have twice the antioxidant capacity.
So the food that we're eating all the time, Vic, basically, and we're talking virtually everyone has lower level of nutrition.
Low level nutrition. We're bred in sugar. All right. And I've sort of defined this term of bad sugars, which is sucrose and fructose. With the agronomists, the agricultural chemists, are sort of breeding in sweeter, ever sweeter food. So we've got juicy, sweet. Fiber's disappearing. That's causing a raft of problems again, health-wise. So we've got this depleted, degraded, unfortunately insufficient food supply. Compare it to Aborigines. Aborigines had between 3 and 10 times the number of foods that we ate, that we're eating now. They had on an annual basis. The food, if you look at it nutritionally, you can't even compare it. I'd like to say, well, it was 20 or 100 times better, but there's compounds in wild foods that used to be in our foods, in our produce. There's all these fat-soluble vitamins. I mean, we know about avocado, for example. It's about the only fruit that still has fat-soluble vitamins in it. All the others used to, when they were still crab apples and, seeded bananas and so forth, they were healthy way back then. What have we done? We've stripped out a whole class of nutrients.
And the problem here, Vic, is that if you're trying to do the right thing,
you can't.
You're still struggling.
Step one is go organic. So at least you're not eating the pesticides and the waxes and the other nasties. Yeah. But we'll never get there. Yeah. So L.I.F.E is designed as just a top-up. It's designed with all these wild foods, with the best of other conventional foods as well to support them. So things like grape mark or grape skin and seed. We use that because there's some really good nutritional, well, everybody's heard of resveratrol, okay? So it's a good source of resveratrol, just to back up the resveratrol that's in the wild foods already, okay? So essentially this is a micronutrient mix. L.I.F.E stands for lyophilized, which means freeze-dried, okay? Lyophilized indigenous Australian food. It's all food essentials. So these are the parts of the foods that we have to be eating for our ideal health. All right. So L.I.F.E took me a while to get the.
I love it though. I love it.
But it works.
It does. It does. Because it sums it up as well. Because there's so many people that say, I think I'm doing the right thing.
I'm
trying to eat the fruit and veggies, but I'm always tired.
Yeah, overload. Digestion's not real good. Yeah.
And there's always something. There's some mystery ailment.
Absolutely.
That they've always got.
Well, in actual fact, there's a list of diseases of civilization. That's how it was named first. And then they looked at Aboriginal culture and they thought, well, here's a civilization. Didn't have any of these diseases. Yeah. So the name in about the 1970s or so was changed to diseases of nutrition. Far better terminology for this whole class of problems. And you'd be amazed at just what it encompasses. It's actually, I went out one time with some Aboriginal, an Aboriginal family, actually, the Bird family, in the just northeast of Alice Springs, all right? It's on the Sandover Highway, and it's a really interesting desert community with a lot of dry land and some woodland as well. And we went out and actually for 3 days, I ate nothing but wild honey. So this is called sugar bag by the local people. And I tell you, and in fact, I even write about it in my book, okay, just a little bit of a mention here. My 6th book is all about really the significance of wild foods and how we can, what the new crop of the next commercial foods could be. So this is my 2 bobs worth in that regard, but also looking at traditional Aboriginal management of these foods and so forth. And I wrote about this little exercise of just surviving on wild honey. And it's not just, don't just think of sort of, the store-bought sugar syrup, or just the honey liquid. This is full of pollen, and even the waxes you sort of chew and get rid of the wax, or you use it for the back of didgeridoos and the top of didgeridoos and the rest. But the thing is that with the pollen and the raw honey, I noticed that everything got really crystal clear. Even hearing got crackly. Sometimes when you clear out your ears and suddenly everything's really extra loud. That's how it was just by eating wild honey and the pollen out of it as well, just the protein.
And here's the fascinating thing and the exciting thing for us having Vic on board. This really is a window into the past and how we can learn from that. Because if there's anybody out there that says, no, Juz, I think we're on the right path, everything's going great, Oh, it's great. Society's great. I mean, disease is low and everybody's thriving. You know, people don't feel that way. People are really lost, particularly with nutrition at the moment. And I think Vic has a lot of those answers. Now, Vic, what we're going to do is say to everybody, we're going to do lots of drops with L.I.F.E and other products of Vic's as well going forward. And we'll do YouTube Live as well with Vic. So we'll be live on YouTube. We'll let you guys know. That way you can send questions through about things. But firstly, Vic, you're doing something wonderful. You're giving away 30 free sachets.
The sachets are a week's work of the L.I.F.E, so you'll be able to. It's taken by the teaspoon, okay, and
everything's on the back. It's very clear.
It is all. I mean, I basically literally just take a teaspoon of L.I.F.E in the mouth and then just drink some water, and then that hydrates. And you want a good glass full of water. And again, that literally just puts all the nutrients back into the solution it's meant to be, because the powder is pureed fruit freeze-dried. So it's fruit powder. It's not like these extracts that are then sort of spray-dried or whatever on, maltodextrin or something, and some other sort of starch. And then so it's soluble and it dissolves and it's nice, juicy type thing. This is the whole fruit, apart from what you don't eat, the seed or, the stalks and so forth. So that's the whole key. The other thing is the production of it being freeze-dried means it's full of live enzymes. It's got compounds in there now that are being researched as to why they can kill these growths in our body that are either mutagens or cancers, basically, or precursors to cancer and so forth. Now, we can't make any claims, but literally the work is now being done looking at Big Pharma is trying to get these compounds and obviously make synthetic chemicals or drugs out of them. But we know already that from work done, way back, work done also at the turn of the century, of last century, in fact, work more recently, about 1980s, and then now in 2016, work that cancer was very, very rare in Indigenous Australians, Indigenous Americans, and also Indigenous Africans. So the fact that it just wasn't there means there was something about their diet. And also, who's it for? It's also for pregnant mums, because they're now starting to publish work where they're seeing that in baby boomers who are suffering all these diseases, it appears that we were set up for all those conditions in utero. All right, so essentially while our mums were pregnant, that's when they laid the grounds to how sick we're going to be when we're in our 60s and 70s.
And that makes sense. Okay, so there's a link down below, and the first 30 people are going to get a week's supply of L.I.F.E to try, and we're going to be back soon, and we're going to tell you how you can get yours in future drops. But we hope you enjoy it. Give us the feedback, please. We want to know what you think about L.I.F E. Very, very excited to be associated with this product here at Justine Diana's shop, and a big shout out to Vic. Thank you, Vic, for that. Very generous, and we're going to see you next time. Thanks, Vic.